now we'd like to talk about some Barbie news. I know that's a favorite of Zach's, but
Yes.
basically we got the news that they're developing a Barbie animated show. Oh, okay. They're not developing it yet.
And it's an animated Barbie movie.
I'm so sorry.
It's being discussed at Illumination, which is the same studio that did Despicable Me and the Super Mario Brothers movie and the upcoming Link Legend of Zelda movie.
I don't think Illumination's doing Link.
I thought it was. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's possible, but I thought it was like a different, studio. But
it might have been, but regardless, At least those two, and also that duck movie that recently came out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. The is it a Migration?
Migration.
Yes.
Mattel is kind of discussing this. This is coming from Puck News. I did not get to read the article, granted, because it was behind a paywall, and so basically this is maybe take it with a grain of salt, but it is being reported that is what they're discussing at the very least, and that they're hoping that it would be a huge animated franchise like Super Mario Brothers.
Do you think it would be at all related to the movie that just came out? I feel like it would have to be.
I don't think that it would have to be by any means, but I think that their hope would be that it would be very similar.
Right, because I don't see a Barbie movie in the style of like all the other Barbie movies doing well.
Well, but it wouldn't be in the style of all the other Barbie movies.
Sure, it would be a different like art style for sure.
Yeah.
But I just mean like format and I think if honestly if they do something like Super Mario where it's like really like I don't know, it's really eye popping, a lot of really cool visuals and some really good humor and a pretty decent story. I think it could really kill it.
It could.
Yeah. I know you're not a huge fan of Super Mario, but I think a lot of people was.
No,
and it did really well.
Right. No, it did. It made like $1 billion.
Right.
I haven't been like crazy about any Illumination movies in a while.
Right.
But look, it could be. It could be. I'm sure there's a universe where they come up with a really great story. I imagine that they would probably have to make it different than the Greta Gerwig version, just because.
Yeah, it's a little more for adults. I feel
it's a lot more for adults, and it's also talking about, not that you can't talk about the things that
right.
like big themes that like the live action Barbie movie did in an animated movie. I think you absolutely can,
for sure.
But I just wonder how much of that you could would be interesting to the audience. Also, like keeping in mind that like Illumination is typically geared towards a younger audience. Like they did the Grinch movie and and Despicable Me, and they're still movies for adults too. Like I still like the first Despicable Me a lot. Like they still made like some pretty good movies. But their whole art style like suggests that it's a bit more, and I mean also because it's animated, but it suggests that it's a lot. Like I know the Barbie movie was heightened, but it gives a suggestion that it would be even more heightened reality. Right. And so I imagine that they would probably aim for doing like their own story that's probably not going to touch on so many themes of like being a woman or, like,
to be honest, I do feel like this type of Barbie movie wouldn't be as much for the entire general audience. Maybe it'd be more for like the general audience of like 18 and lower, maybe.
Yeah.
And I am glad that it sounds like they're not making like a Barbie cinematic universe. You know, like I think that's what I was really worried about.
It does it, but they said that the hope is for Barbie to become a huge animated franchise like Super Mario Brothers.
Sure. But like, it sounds like this movie would be in a different, like it wouldn't be connected at all to the live action movie. And I think that is totally fine. Like, do other mediums, do it for other like ages or, you know, demographics, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I do know that there was also some talk of like a sequel to Barbie.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so this quote came out like 8 months ago.
Yeah. I remember
because Greta Gerwig did a 60 Minutes interview.
Right.
But it was brought up again, and now that we are talking about, you know, Mattel doing something with the Barbie franchise. I just thought it was interesting that Greta Gerwig did say, in regards to Barbie 2, that she's not sure what it would even look like, and quote,
Right.
why can't it be another big, original, bold idea where we get an amazing filmmaker, a big budget to play with, and the trust of a huge conglomerate behind them to go and really play. I want to do that.
Right. Like, I don't think like, honestly, the way Barbie ends, you don't need a sequel. It's very much like a one story conclusion and wrapping, and that's all it needs. I think I would be a little disappointed if we got more after it.
I think that the way that the world works today, I would not be surprised that 5 years from now there is a Barbie 2.
I wouldn't be surprised at all because it made so much money, you know.
And if they don't do a sequel in 5 years, I would not be surprised in 20 years that there is a Barbie 2. Because at that point, it's a little bit more like, well, maybe somebody had an idea. But also you could easily be like, it's the same thing with people making movies that were popular in the 80s and the 90s and the sequels today.
Right.
But I think it is interesting what she says is like, obviously, like what happened with the first Barbie does not really happen a whole lot.
Yeah, where somebody's given a lot of freedom on a huge property.
Backed by a big conglomerate.
And a big budget, right.
And a big, you know, and if there was a Barbie 2, I don't even know if I'd want, like Greta says, like, I don't know if even like a Greta sequel, unless she had a great idea.
Yeah, like how could it be as good? Honestly, you know.
But if somebody has another original idea, like I would imagine that if you wanted to do a Barbie 2, you could focus on, you could go back to the same characters, and I think a lot of people would expect that, and a lot of studio heads would want that.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost wonder if you could just make it like, well, what about a completely different aspect of the Barbie like idea, and make it about a completely different looking, like maybe the Barbie is like Hispanic, or maybe the Barbie's like, I don't know, like
just do new I think that's the only way you could really freshen it up every time, is making it new characters, but they're still Barbie and Ken, you know,
like they're Barbie and Ken, or it's a bunch of Barbies, or, you know, maybe even focus on like a Ken, but that feels like a bit strange potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
But like having like a different version of what Barbie looks like, and it's like this Barbie does this thing, and it could be, you know, talking about what, who knows. I certainly don't, because I would have never dreamed in a million years the idea, like the concept for Barbie. But it's great.
I just don't see a way forward with the characters we have already introduced with, you know.
I think there is a way.
Oh, I don't doubt that, but I just don't think it would be nearly as good either.
Yeah, I think that they told the story that they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I thought that like the end of Toy Story 3 was like, well, they wrapped that up pretty well.
They wrapped it up amazingly.
But then I watched Toy Story 4 and I was like, you know what? Woody did have like a really great story that like I really like how his story ended up, you know.
But now they're doing a fifth one. So.
I know.
Yeah, they're gonna be fighting technology.
You know what? I could see that.
Yeah, but we won't go down a Toy Story rabbit hole.
But anyways,
Yeah.
I think that, look, I hope that if they do make an Illumination movie, I hope Illumination makes a great movie. I just want, if anything, I would just want it to be a good, entertaining, fun movie. If it's even more than that, that would be great. I just hope that they don't. I just hope that they treat it, I guess. I guess I don't know. I didn't love the way that they did Super Mario Brothers. And I don't think I'm a big fan of that Grinch movie either. And I haven't been a big fan of a lot of what I've seen from them. So I'm just a little nervous that they have the filmmaking skills to make it something that I would be into. But I don't know.
I think regardless, for me, I don't think this movie will be for me. And as long as it's not trying to harp or leech off of the live action movie, then I'm fine.
I think if I had to guess if this is true, why it's happening is Mattel probably knows that they're going to probably get what is it called where you each time you get around it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I forget what the term is, but I think they know that they're probably not going to get something better than what they got out of the first Barbie. And they probably don't have a lot of people that have too many ideas about what to do with the next one.
Right.
And Greta's not even going to be a part of it for at least a few years because she's doing Narnia movies.
2 Narnia. Right.
And that's why I think that they're well, Barbie's still hot. What can we do?
Right.
So
I agree. I think it makes sense as a company standpoint. But yeah, I don't think it totally affects me unless it really is a sequel or it connected in any way at all to that live action one.